They look good.
SSG looking great. You know, playing some of the slower compositions here at hand, but you know, I'm curious what you think here, Jake, because Sakura, they've specialized on like the fast pace. Like Lucio Kiri, we're gonna go in, we're gonna be aggressive. Surely in the playoffs, you just gotta like double down. You're just like, we know Space Station, they're gonna play, you know, the more up-to-date, slower style. We just gotta full send it anyway.
Let's chat about Sakura first, though.
I do think it's the right look for them to go with bringing that pace. I think Peace on the Genji has been quite strong for this roster, and then X10 has been following up in some important moments as well. The challenge for them, like you said, is going to be continuing those longer fights, right? If SSG can stall things out, if somebody like Sugar Free can create space and slow down some of these hits on the flanks, that's going to be trouble for Sakura. So this is a team that I think really needs to rely on the team play in this type of a match and keep the pressure on SSG. And I mean, in the end, SSG has looked vulnerable, right? They may have looked good yesterday. They may be heating up for playoffs, which is a bit scary. But you can also say, like, look at this stage. They look maybe more beatable than we've ever seen Space Station. And so maybe the time is right.
They have played very recently in week 5. Actually, they faced off against each other. And while SSG did take that match, there was one map that Sakura won, and that was a beatdown, like an absolute stomp. Like X10 and both, as well as Peace, had a phenomenal game, a really on game that day. So I hope to see more of that. Now, Space Station Gaming, again, tough start to their season, but also a very stiff competition early on in their schedule. But they ramped it up, and they did look good yesterday against the most dominant team we have in the region.
I mean, SSG, they're just hitting it at the perfect time. Like, they look fantastic, and everyone's chiming in as well. Seeker on the Sojourn, you know, just looking fantastic on this role. Sugar Free always performs as well, but they've really figured out their backline as well, and now they're playing all the right compositions, and they look really comfortable. Yes, you know, of course, they naturally struggled playing like this Lucio Kiri, Winston kind of composition against what GK were pulling out. But I think that's to be expected. I still think SSG, they played really well. Did they win the series? No, they didn't. But it was a really close match, a great showing against the best team in the region. So I feel really good about SSG. I'd say as we look towards this match as a whole, I would say the good thing for Sakura maybe is that SSG look really comfortable and sometimes prefer to play more of that dive-heavy stuff, right? Like going to Dorado, for example, picking Ilios as the first map, which Sakura did win the last time, right? So for Sakura, if anything, maybe you hope that SSG double down on more of the dive stuff, because that would mean that you're kind of like leveling the playing field and there's less of an uphill battle because you don't have to break down these slower brig compositions that SSG could bring. So you're hoping for a dive matchup here if you're a Sakura in my mind.
Oof. I'm
here.
here
I'm
here for the 9%, though.
I think it's fair. I think there is a shot for Sakura, like you said. I do also think, you know, somebody like Seeker is going to be crucially important in a matchup like this. You know, the ability of the hit scan to, like, the gulf between, on the one hand, just getting instantly smoked by the dive and doing nothing in the fight is very reasonable in this type of a comp matchup. Between that and being able to survive and grab a pick or two, it's night and day. It's going to change everything. So a lot of pressure on Seeker. If Sakura do bring those high-paced dives, want to see how he handles it.
A lot of pressure on both of these teams, obviously, as this is an elimination match, and with their backs against the wall, let's see what both of these teams will be pulling out of their sleeves. For all the action, we're now going to hand it over to Jack and Rose.
Yeah, thank you very much, Zoe, Jake and Johnny, of course, on the desk. Space Station Gaming versus Sakura. Johnny wanting a dive matchup, or at least hoping, you know, for Sakura, at least hoping they want a dive matchup. Because Space Station Gaming, we know they want to rock out on Control, on Ilios, on Oasis with a dive Winston, Wrecking Ball, etc. How do you feel about that? Do you think Sakura really want it?
I don't know about that, because I feel like on some level, yes, the dive would be super good to see from Space Station. I think that is one of their best compositions, but I also think that if it's going to be the Wrecking Ball, that can be quite exploitable. We've seen teams fall into this trap, but I think Team Liquid is one of those teams, right, Jack? You see the Wrecking Ball, and there's really easy ways to be able to play into it. But I think, you know, looking at these bans, if there was going to be one way that Sakura would be able to beat the Winston dive, it would have been with the Hazard, and Jack, it's been banned out.
Yep, no Hazard and no BAP on the other side. So yeah, that does lead me to believe that Space Station will be playing a little bit of Winston, a little bit of Wrecking Ball. Now Sakura, they've had a fairly decent run up into the playoffs. Obviously, they came into the playoffs at sixth seed for Extinction. Last time they faced off against each other, Sakura did take a map off of Space Station. It was Control. It was Ilios, so it wasn't here. But same kind of style you can play on both maps. So we'll see what Clear wants to play, because we know if they're going to pivot to a dive, it's going to be D.Va. Kellen, though, Orisa time. So this is also a pick that yesterday, Rose, we were both quite impressed with. It actually did a lot better against Geeky than their dive did.
I'm definitely excited to see Kellen on the Orisa, but I think this is where, going back to your point really quick, Sakura did win on the control map, but it was with the Hazard versus the Winston dive. Now that that's banned out, I think it makes a lot of sense to see Clear just kind of take up the D.Va instead to play this dive. But versus the Orisa, that could be quite hard. There's not really a good diveable target for Sakura to go after, and so I think that's another reason why this Orisa ends up being smart. Good to see the flexibility there from Kellen, but also really good to counter the dive.
You can't really be hanging around. Diving one target is perfect, right? With the D.Va, Tracer, X10 can land a couple of bolts, but you're going to get chewed up. Like, as soon as your Matrix is at half, like, depleted, like, Kellen's just going to continue to shoot you until your mech gets destroyed. And that's exactly what happened there. Sakura do end up losing this first cap as Spacestation in control, and this high ground for Seeker is going to be quite prominent. But of course, X10 has been the star for Sakura. Opens these fights up 9 times out of 10, but once again, Clear just getting dominated.
It goes back to what you were just saying about being able to burst through all of the defense matrix, and once that resource is out of the way, then the rest of the mech is easy to clean up. And unfortunately, without the D.Va, you don't necessarily have that same initiative presence that you would to be able to actually execute on the dive, because you need your tank to be able to follow through on that. Clear is back. I think that's the one nice thing about the D.Va, is you can come back into these fights faster with those boosters. But where's the collapse? Everybody's playing around this environment so well on Spacestation Gaming.
Clear's going to go down again. Yeah. 3 times in a row. The 3-peat for Clear there. Losing mech first up. X10 throughout the bolus, but yeah, nothing. And this should be an easy cleanup for Sugar Free now. Not even over here, and just looks like cool, calm, collected Sugar Free. Or go for it. Cinema, she's going to run.
Oh.
Not quite. Sugar Free gets him out, and that's Space Station on last fight, and they've got ults. They've only used that pulse bomb.
That is wild to me. A lot of these fights have just been won off the back of Space Station being able to get the D.Va out of mech, killed, and then they just roll into the next elimination. But it's been enough of a stagger that Sakura has not had a clean fight with this. They're able to initiate now with this Kitsune Rush, but it's going to be quite a brawl here, Jack. Every ultimate's going to get used.
No, there's the dive target. It's going to be Seeker in the back line. Pulse bomb does go a little bit wide, and the sound barrier has been deployed from Space Station, so an additional bit of safety there, a security blanket, if you will. Cinnabar ends up going down. They trade for Bliss, so no Lucio's on the board, but this Terror Surge is going to be a nightmare to get away from now, and Seeker is still alive and kicking on the high ground. Snipes Clear away, dashes back down to the stairs too. Seeker is on one today.
Oh my goodness. I got excited about the Kellen Orisa, but let's get excited for a second about this Seeker Sojourn. I think for a while when Freya was that new DPS, so shiny, everybody wanted to play her, and I think there are a couple of teams that are kind of still stuck in that mentality. But Seeker's been one of those players liked to play this Freya, but this Sojourn, this pivot that Seeker has made us look so good. Even going back to yesterday, Seeker was popping off when those overclocks were active.
Yeah, look at that. 8 and 1 for your boy Seeker.
Disgusting.
Only 2 deaths for the whole team on the side of Space Station. And they're going to downtown or city center, even. Downtown city, I mean, all the control.
Yeah, there's a downtown on like every single control.
There's a downtown, there's a city center, there's a gardens. Yeah, I can't wait for the next control map to have every single one of those. A downtown, city center, and a garden.
Okay, 6 rounds actually. So we get like
God,
the
no, please.
extra spice.
Remember first to 3 control in ranked? That was pain.
That was
never again,
so
please.
hard.
All right, Clear. It's going to have a bit of an easier time against the Wrecking Ball here. Being able to protect the backline with the defense matrix, of course, and Kelling just getting bullied at the moment, but you are Wrecking Ball, so you're able to get out of most situations.
I kind of, again, don't like the Wrecking Ball here. I'm just really not a Wrecking Ball believer in this particular patch. But if Kellen can make it work, maybe this is the time to do it. But I think you just leave your team so vulnerable with the Wrecking Ball, just like that, with he's being able to pick up Bliss.
Yeah, really nice kill. I was X10 connecting a bolt, and then Pete's just following up with a couple of pulse pistol shots. Kellen's going to switch. There it is. Okay.
Thank you.
Heard you. I think I heard you, Rose.
I think that he should know better by now, actually. Now the Orisa makes way more sense. It worked out so well on Gardens, and there isn't necessarily the same type of control since they didn't capture the point first. But you're still able to play together as a unit, and I think just having the Orisa to soak up a lot of these bolt shots here from the Freya, and maybe even eat the bolus shot too, like, definitely feels better.
Ooh. Wow, there's 2 instant kills. Cinnabar and Peace paying incredibly far up. Sakura lose 2, and killing clear here is going to be fairly easy as well. Like, it's not going to be a big ring around the rosy, exchanging defensive cooldowns with another Orisa. You can just chase the D.Va away until she runs out of Matrix, and then it's an easy kill. So Sakura at least gets 61%, but Spacestation, they get a flip.
And the flip comes at the perfect time, because I think with 61%, you've still bought yourself time. Like, let's say Sakura wins off the back of a big ultimate fight, then Spacestation can come in and they still have a chance to recontest as a good regrouped unit of 5. But right now, I think Spacestation have quite a few things that they can throw at this, like matching the rush.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do. Here comes Z's, but Peace is already dead. And Cinnabar's going to get chased down again. Surely Lucio doesn't fall? No. Z comes in clutch with a headshot onto Sugar Free. Self-destruct launched in the sky. Clear gets a free remake, but Kellen is still alive on the point. You got to focus the Orisa, but with his Terror Surge coming up, that's another defensive ability to use to stay alive and keep this point ticking in your favor. Seeker, with this railgun, this overclock, not finding too much purchase whatsoever, and Z finds another kill. Terror Surge comes in, but just in the nick of time. Cinnabar lays down the sound barrier. Sakura, they've got the sustain to win that fight.
They had to use everything in the tank, though, in order to do that. But I think the best part is that they were able to get out so many other ultimates from Spacestation as well. Terror Surge is gone. Seekers also had to reset there, try and use the Widowmaker to at least get out of spawn, and now goes back over to the Sojourn. But this is kind of what we were talking about before. 60% was good enough to make sure the Spacestation get a really good final attempt at this. But at what cost? The post-bomb from Sugar Free is going to have to open this up for them. Otherwise, Sakura, they tie up this map.
Yeah, they're closing in on OT. It was Cinnabar and Peace getting picked first last time around. Focus fire now onto Clear. Little spear spin looking at Z, but Clear's mech is extremely low. Kellen almost body blocking Z there. Stopping the heals, connecting with Clear. Pulsebomb gets flung out by Peace. There's the bolus shot as well, but CJ does just blink away from it. A nice little headshot on the Lucio, but Peace and Cinnabar come up with a kill and an assist. Oh, Bliss though. Kind of dunking on Peace a little bit. Stays alive on the point. Another bolt does end up connecting. A double bolt, in fact, from X10. Gets the 2-tap on Bliss. But Spacestation get a flip. There's no support, so on the point for Spacestation, so Sugar Free has to play safe.
There is going to be a contest, and that's going to be good enough for Spacestation to at least buy some time for the rest of their Patriots to come back. But Sakura have this rush, so it's going to be a tough fight for Spacestation. They've got to walk right into that.
They're going to easily be able to match it, though, with CJ's rush also. And then Bliss is so close to the sound barrier. Bliss is going to have to win this map for them here with this beats. They haven't flipped either, but Peace already finds a kill on to Seeker. Post bomb for Sugar Free, and now he can play aggressive with his overhealth, looking directly at the Lucio. Doesn't manage to get the kill, but Kellen helps clean on up. Sugar Free waiting for the blink of the Kiriko to maybe go in and land this post bomb, but a D-Mech onto Clear is going to be enough for him now to get a free one. It does end up pancaking on the floor, but forces Z to reposition again, but Z repositions straight in front of Kennen and picks up the kill. But Sugar Free is still alive, and with CJ coming back as well, TP's in, offered a sailing towards Sugar Free as he keeps the Tracer in the fight. A Suzu from Z to keep Cinnabar on the point and keep this fight going. But Bliss and CJ come up with the final couple of kills. This overclock from Seeker should just be the final nail in the coffin as Clear comes back on the ball for some desperation touch.
Becomes the Christmas ornament in the middle of the city center. Fortunately, not quite the right time for the holiday, but good enough here for Spacestation to get the first map win of the series. Jack, I don't know, maybe Sakura do want to see that dive. That wrecking ball, not quite the pick I think that Kellen should have made on that second round.
It definitely felt a little bit better. Like the D.Va has a better matchup into the Orisa. Now Hazard can be played by Spacestation, but honestly, Rose, I think as the series progresses, and especially Spacestation yesterday, how they played against Geeky, I think they're just going to pivot towards more Orisa maps and more Orisa comps. Like, I really do. They had the most effect against Geeky using that Orisa. When they did play Dive, it looked okay. Like, it's kind of good, but nothing compared to Kellen's Orisa right now, which is, I'm going to be honest with you, very weird to say. Like, Kellen, the Orisa player, like, no, like, he's a dive player through and through, but honestly, right. It's working for them.
Yeah, that really doesn't sound right when you say it vocally like that, but I think it really does make the most sense in this particular meta. I think the desk has touched on this a lot in terms of where the meta has shifted. We've already seen the impact of what the tank choices and meta swaps have looked like for Korea, APAC, in EMEA even just a couple of matches ago, and now we're really seeing the full effect hit North America. So I hope to see more of this Orisa from Kellen as well. I think it really just has been the best look for Spacestation so far, and honestly, after quite a lackluster dive performance from them at the Champions Clash of all things, like when they were labeled a dive team.
Right. More Orisa, please. SSG. And even Jake saying on the desk, like, Seeker's going to be a big impact in this game. Very nice round one. Looked really clean on the Sojourn. Doesn't have to, like, go to the Freya, which he did look fairly weak on compared to the rest of North America DPS, like the hitscan players. And then Sugar Free, the most consistent Tracer player on any team, it feels like, at this point. Dude's putting out numbers every single series. Winner, of course, does end up going through and facing either Nightmare or Extinction, which is our later series today. But Spacestation starting off this with a nice little 2-0. You can't ask for much more than that. Sakura did end up taking Ilios last time they faced. But as we look at the map pool, Rose, where do we go? Because New Junk City was the big map that they took off Geeky yesterday. So I don't think Sakura want to go there.
Probably not, because I think New York City is also a very good Orisa map. So I think if you are trying to bank on saving the Orisa ban for later, I think you just want to make sure that you're taking the best things out of the pool and then saving the Orisa for either kind of like the last ditch effort ban, or yeah, just making a map choice that you don't need to use the ban for anyway. But it looks like we're going to King's Row, and I do think that this map is one of the best in the pool to provide flexibility, where you can like play the Diva, or you can play a Winston, or like the Hazard is incredibly good, especially on the second part of this map. So if Sakura do want to lean into the Hazard, the ban is off the table, and King's Row is a great map for it.
I think every point is actually pretty decent for Hazard. Second definitely feels really good because you can get up those high grounds pretty easy. But even first, like, we see a very slow style of Hazard play, especially on first attack, where you take top right and then you just swing around and just, you know, violent leap over, jump over the high ground, just push everybody off and then push them to the point where you can kind of descend on them. Yeah, I think Spacestation, they're going to kind of shrug their shoulders this one and go, okay, well, where do Sakura put their ban? If they want to ban the Orisa, fine. Like, we'll just play Hazard. Like, we're chill. And I think it's going to be up to players like X10 to really step up big. But stepping up big against something like Seeker or Sugar Free is just going to be so hard. There are a couple of nice little kills, like a limbs, like great, but there wasn't anything to write home about, at least not for now. Looks like Sakura are banning the Orisa, and SSG are going to take X10's Freya away.
Wow. I mean, these are bans that make so much sense across the board. The Orisa was such a pain point on OWCS, and I think the Freya, if you were really looking at a dive that executes well with the Hazard, you got to take away, if you can't take away the Hazard, you got to take away the other piece of that puzzle, and I think that is X10's Freya. So now you're kind of stuck in this weird spot. Like, a Tracer with the Hazard is fine, but is X10 gonna be okay playing something like a Sojourn with this? You don't get nearly the same verticality.
Ooh, Ana on the defense for CJ. Okay. I like this a lot, actually. Hazard play for Clear. I mean, this is an obvious pick for Clear too, another character. He's been basically just ping-ponging back and forth between the Hazard and the Diva whenever the other one gets kind of banned, but mainly the Hazard.
Right, and so I think that's what we always expected after the Hazard has gotten unbanned. You can go ahead and play that. There's a lot less fear to be able to play it into the Orisa, and you already know what your Hazard versus Winston matchup is going to look like. That's a matchup you already won in their previous series for Stage 2, so it's something that they should feel quite confident in. But there is this X factor now of having X10 on the Sojourn instead of this Freya that we usually see paired alongside this Hazard. So wonder how much practice they've actually got with this. You would, I think, have to assume at some point the Freya is going to get banned out.
Wow, Kellen almost got instantly deleted there. In fact, it's going to get jumped on again. And this is what Clear is going to have to be cautious of as well. This Ana, the Hazard, it's not good into the... Sorry, the Hazard is not insane into the Ana. It's okay, but these Byronays, these sleep darts can really put a dent in the armor. And yeah, CJ picking up a kill onto X10, helping with the kill onto Clear 2. They did end up losing Kellen, but it should be a fairly easy regroup. They're not going to lose high ground at least.
As long as you don't lose someone else here, I think there's plenty of time for Kellen to come back. And look at that, he's already coming underneath the archway. But there's this, impactful Tracer duel, I was gonna say. But Spacestation have done a great job of just kind of taking these solo fights and making them way easier. And you're so right about this CJ value. What a perfect spot. How it's gonna be so difficult for anybody to go actually contest him in that window.
Hey, Kellen just being a giant ult battery as well at this point. They got Nano. They're a 99, so they probably just want to go pretty quick here. They probably just want to Nano Kellen, get him in, and just win the fight again. Get these really early picks. Zia's already used that Suzu and the TP. Like, the Swift Step was used instantly on top of X10, and yeah, fight over. Sugar Free with a 3-piece.
Ooh, Peace does actually get CJ finally dislodged from that high ground, but really holds on to that nano boost, which I think could be quite critical in this next fight. I think using the nano boost here early would have been a surefire way to win the fight, but you also have already been winning the fights anyway. Nice to have the nano boost now that you can use as a countermeasure against this rush from Z.
Oh, Kellic has already killed Cinnabar, and the nano makes him pretty indestructible. Double kill for the Winston. Might go down, but it's all good. Damage is done, and if they get a kill onto Clear as well, that'll be more for the better. Although Seeker is ended up getting warded off. Good stick, though, from Sugar Free. Always the band-aid that Space Station need if they're ever in dire straits. Sakura are going to be able to get a bit of time on point, but Kellen's got the Primal Rage. Like, you can just jump back in, you can give 2 ticks.
And we still see Sugar Free actually jostling this point, too, so it's not even that you're giving up all of this area for free.
It's really nice from Seeker there. Yeah, just re-entering with the overclock. Downpour doesn't end up connecting with the Sojourn, but good sleep from CJ. Stops Clear from capitalizing on anybody that's stuck. This might just be a full hold as well, Rose. Not quite the fuller hold. They've got a 1 tick, but 60 seconds to go, and Bliss still has that sound barrier to match Cinnabar's.
Well, now that just means that Sakura is going to have to do the actual fuller hold here and make sure that Space Station doesn't get any percentage. But I think you're right. This could be a full hold for Space Station with the sound barrier to be able to match Cinnabar's. I think the only thing that could really throw a wrench in the work is going to be X10's overclock. But how much value is it going to get when you actually have to try to create some space with this?
Oh, good kill.
That's a great start.
Insane stuff. Oh, 3-man sound barrier for Bliss. Yeah, looking a little sad, honestly, if you're Bliss. That was a really nice initial headshot from X10, and then Peace is there with the follow-up. Good pick, and Sakura will end up getting that cap.
Right in the nick of time, but I think that the critical key to success was just getting CJ dislodged from that window. Without that Ana, you didn't have the healing. You really forced Bliss into this position of needing to use that sound barrier reactively rather than trying to help engage into the fight. And I think that left so much room there for X10, because you saw like the sound barrier was barely able to actually add any overhealth to keep somebody alive. It only bought seconds rather than maybe on like, yeah, it almost felt like it bought milliseconds versus seconds.
Ooh. Trying to hold this car underneath the archway here, but yeah, it's not working out. They're not going in quick enough, and they've already found a kill onto Seeker. Pele was moving for a brief moment there. Kellen dodging out of the way of the downpour, looking at Cinnabar again. CJ falls to the backline of Sakura. Payload still going, so indecisiveness it feels like here from Space Station. Not really knowing when to go in, and they've just let the payload slip past them.
Yeah, that was a weird hold, wasn't it? You would kind of assume that you would have wanted to contest the cart there, but nobody was stopping that cart from moving, and Kellen is still in the back line while the cart is moving swiftly towards that second objective. At least Kellen
luckily he doesn't end up getting primal. Yeah, he did end up getting stuck there by Peace, but they couldn't actually finish off the Winston. So, in fact, he's bought them a lot of time. If he did go down there, that would have been pretty bad, but it's, like, okay at this point. Like, it's all good. We got a minute. We can still hold second, but they have to be fearful of this rush.
At least Bliss, like, a crazy fast sound barrier generation, because that's actually something that could come up, but, ooh, losing Kellen, that's brutal.
Yeah, Peace recalls at 2 HP, and here comes the sound barrier. They want to fight this one, despite the man advantage here for Sakura. Nice stick from Sugar Free again. A lot of damage onto Clear, but holds up the arm. That's Spike Guard, absorbing a lot of that. Nice nade. Oh, the nade from CJ there was juicy. All right, Cinema dead, and now Kellen is back in the mix. And with Seeker, with this overclock, this is going to be a really hard fought effort for Sakura to stay in this fight and hold position. Looks like Space Station want to just punish as many people as humanly possible now, pushing Sakura all the way back to choke.
Oh, especially because they're going to actually get the isolation onto Clear. So if that is somebody that you get picked apart before this final fight, big. I mean, Space Station definitely can stop the cart here now.
Yep, overtime, they're going to get a touch, but here comes the wrap here from Space Station. They're going to use that downpour. Sound barrier comes in, but only hits 2 for Cinema. A good sleep onto Clear into the back line as CJ keeps himself alive. Now just backing away, a little bit tentative to step up, fearing maybe Cinema comes back in. But the Nano's been deployed, and Seeker will hold down the point as Clear was taking an unfortunate nap. And there is where the point will hold just before that second. That is a tough spot to even hold on to if you're Sakura, but Space Station, very clear win condition in their minds now.
Super achievable goal as well. I think especially if you can start to generate some momentum and you also cap that first point with a little bit more time, that might be enough to just push you over the edge and have that ultimate economy as well to try to get yourself over that finish line. Oh my god, Bliss didn't die in that first... okay, Bliss and Sugar Free both didn't die.
As well. That is
holy,
easy, actually.
15-0 is nuts.
Nice work from Sugar Free.
He's doing a lot better today. I felt like Sugar Free yesterday was a little bit quiet in the first couple of maps, and then they were able to turn it around off the back of some really nice pulse bombs and just insane tracer play. I feel like Sugar Free woke up that second half of the series and has clearly carried that through today.
There was definitely the better tracer play in the matchup versus EK in my mode. And with Geek as well, that series was always going to be very difficult. Of course, with how good Lethal has been throughout this stage, you're expecting Geek to win that, but even the Death touched on it. Space Station have leveled up. They've gone from, you know, barely taking maps off of top tier teams to looking actually really competitive on all 3 maps on in that upper bracket semifinals against Geek. The score might have been the same, but the feeling definitely was not. It felt like a stronger Space Station week after week. All right, Kellen's on the hazard now. Gonna match Clear. In fact, it's gonna be a complete mirror on both sides. No honor for CJ.
I like this though, because this is actually a hero we haven't seen Kellen play too often, but I think if you're going to try something new, now is the right time to do it. You're already up in the series. You have a very achievable goal. Unfortunately, it's not going to work out for this first push, but I love seeing Kellen trying to take some risks here in terms of just new takes.
Yeah, so how his walls end up comparing to Clear? It's really hard to play Winston on this point as well. If you're diving in onto the high ground, Clear's just waiting for you basically to violently like burst damage, put the wall behind you. It'd be really hard. Hazard, kind of the same thing, but Hazard has got the spike guard, so you're able to survive a little bit longer with the damage reduction.
Oh, this backline's gonna have to watch out for Peace though. But maybe you just play front to back after getting Clear out of the way.
There's the ends up going down. Just a 3-man hit squad on the high ground. Should be an easy kill on Cinnabar too. There's the first point.
that was so fast. This is like kind of the win condition we were talking about. Just having enough time in the bank where you've got 5 minutes now to make it through the streets phase. That should be plenty. Get a full slate of ultimates up, overwhelm that way, and win out the long game. But also, if you can continue to get these first picks where a lot of Space Station's focus is going on to clear, I think that's also a very easy way for you to try to win these fights.
Sakura not even attempting to hold it at the gate, feeling maybe Space Station have the upper hand here. CJ so close to this rush too. Z ends up using theirs, but they end up losing X10 pretty early on. 4v4 though, as Seeker goes down to a spike guard, a volley of needles there thrown towards him. But now guess who's on the sidelines? It's Sugar Free, and there's no Suzu. A free pulse bomb for the Tracer. Does go wide, but forces everybody back after CJ uses the rush. So space created, and now the push can continue on the streets. As it looks like Peace is trying to challenge Sugar Free on this off angle, but is losing this 1v1.
It does have a pulse bomb, but overclock first for Seeker.
Forces basically everybody to reposition as well. Cinnabar is 1 HP. Yeah, there's no way Cinnabar gets out. That's a very big mistake from Sakura. Losing their Lucio like that and how close they are to that ult, it's disastrous. And with 3.5 minutes to go, these kills aren't coming quick enough for Space Station. They're going to push it even more, I'd imagine. They might just be into them, honestly, Rose.
Oh, I think so. I mean, at this point, too, they just have to regroup, and this is the last attempt. I'm actually a little bit nervous about somebody being able to come in and get the touch here.
Touch. Oh, Oh, Peace ends up going down, but at 0.19 meters. Touch does come in. Sound barrier connects for Bliss. And now this fight is looking a whole lot scarier. And there it is, Space Station Gaming. They're going to cap that second point up. And that will be 2-0 in this series. Sakura 1 map away from getting eliminated.
That was a very, very good push from Space Station. I think this is the level of confidence we also really want to see from this team. They're looking good today. Really, really good today.
Yeah, looking like they've shored up a lot of problems that they had at the start of the stage. Feeling a lot more confident themselves. Seeker back on the Soj, and Sugar Free just looking clean. And the backline as well, dependable. Of course, CJ playing the Kiriko here, playing the Ana, having that flexibility to go over to something like that when you're against a hazard. It's nice. It's really good to have that pocket pick. I think Ana definitely has her place in the meta. Kiriko a little bit more versatile, but you saw how much trouble the Ana was giving Clear on the attack. It was a tough point to take. Good stuff from Space Station so far. Sakura, it just doesn't feel like they got the same gumption in them right now, Rose. Of course, Space Station being a very good team, but still, it doesn't feel like X10's having the impact she normally does.
I'm in agreement with you there. I think this has been quite a quiet series for the DPS, but I kind of wonder how much of that is just like not really being informed with the aim versus how much trouble Space Station as a whole has been giving the team. I think especially when you have to go like let's take Peace for example. Having to go up against a Tracer that is as proficient as Sugar Free, that's a very difficult duel to take. And it's not that I think there's like a huge DPS gap there, but I think there's enough that I think you would start to maybe doubt yourself a little bit, like, oh no, I have to go up against like the Sugar Free of all people, who has really been able to make a statement in other competitive avenues of Overwatch, like the Overwatch League, on the international stage. It's really tough, and Seeker too, I think, has a legacy behind him that can also be tough to compete with.
They did end up going to King's Row in their series previous, and it ended in a similar fashion, a little 2-1. Runasapi and Dorado were the other two maps in the series. And we're going back to Runasapi. I mean, this was SSG, I believe, getting a full cap on this one against Sakura. So Sakura's still confident in their own map pool and find solace in the fact that they can at least choose. And Runasapi is going to be the battleground again. I mean, at least you've also got tape on the series previous, so you can refer back to that and how Space Station played it. But yeah, this feels like almost the same series again, except for that Dorado map.
But I think for Runasapi, there were a lot of real big highlights for me. I mean, Sakura, it wasn't like they got fully stomped there. Yes, there was a full cap from Space Station, but Sakura actually did walk away with 71 meters on that map, which is nothing to scoff at.
Sure.
Like, it's not like a huge differential. He didn't go like 0 to,
They got checkpoint.
110. Yeah. So there's some good spots there. And especially for if you want to play the Hazard, I think this is one of the best maps left in the pool for you to be able to play the Hazard, and especially versus something like the Orisa. I think that's really a matchup that you want to try your hand at.
Yeah, I can imagine those are the tanks we're going to see. I think Kellen's just going to swap back, go Orisa again. If it goes Winston, sure, but it feels like it's just going to be a 3-0. That is the feeling I have right now. I mean, the audience also kind of, I don't know if they agreed on the score line. I think there would be a little, like maybe a 3-1, maybe a 3-0, but 91% of the audience thinking SSG are going to beat Sakura here. And then the opponent does end up facing Nightmare in that lower bracket semis. So, or a quarter, semis? Yeah, semis. Yeah, it's semis. This is
I was like, I actually don't know what you would use there to describe that lower bracket match, but it's like the lower bracket finals. And yeah, it is very exciting for the team that is able to make it further, because then you do have that one final match to be able to make it to the mid-season. But
yeah,
for Sakura,
the winner of that semis is going to make it to mid-season. Yeah, so
right.
Everything is on the table here. I think Nightmare, they're gunning for it. They are second seed coming into this. They ended up losing to Liquid. They only lost one series against Geek in the regular season. Like, Spacestation, if they do win and Nightmare is their opponent, like, that is going to be just a banger. Like, full 5 maps, you've got to imagine. Here's the bans, though. Sakura taking Ana off the table, and no Genji. SSG taking that one away. So, honestly, I don't mind that at all. Sugar-free Seeker, they're just going to play Soja Tracer again. That's it. I mean, Xcan can play the Freya, and that's probably what she'll do. Taking the Ana away does indicate to me Hazard play from Clear.
Yeah, I think the only decision difference I want to see is Cinnabar not picking Moira to start out this map. I totally forgot that was a hero that actually got played in that series. So yeah, I don't want to see the Moira, but I think on ban doesn't hurt Sakura very much. That's certainly targeted at CJ. But maybe if we saw like Lucio Kiriko to kick things off, I think Runasapi starts to look a little bit better. And not having to play into the Ana as well, it does make that Hazard duel even better.
Yeah, Cinnabar has been caught out though a couple of times. A bit too far up, a bit too aggro, trying to help out. Maybe Peace on the Tracer, but they've been tagged a lot of the time by a nade or just by a shot from Seeker, and it's easy to kind of follow up on that one. Let's load on in though to Runasapi. Spacestation Gaming one map away from taking the series and find themselves in that lowest semis. Maybe against Nightmare or Extinction, which will be the series after this. And then the winner of that semis goes to the Midseason Championship. A lot on the line here for a team like Sakura, who a lot of people expected to do fairly well this stage. And I think 5th place was about where everybody would put them. And also on top of that, like a team that everybody also looked at said, hey, this team can upset another. And actually, I kind of forgot to mention this. I was thinking, okay, yeah, it has to make sense. But Clear on the Malga, this makes even more sense to me. Banning the Ana, stopping the Malga getting free value with that anti-nade. So that does make a lot of sense. And another fallback for Clear has been Malga, but Kellen's going to lock Orisa, which is honestly no easy feat for the Malga here. You take a lot of spam and you don't have a lot of armor.
Yeah, I think this is a really tough matchup to take, because I think even without the Ana in the mix, like Malga, it just like even without shields, it's such a big ult battery. For somebody like Seeker that's going to continue to play the Sojourn, Clear is cowering in a corner, just kind of waiting for that cardiac overdrive to come back online and to get healed up.
Yeah, that is the big CD you're playing around, whereas Kellen can play around a couple. He can play around that Fortify and the Spear Spin. 2 very big, like, sustained CDs. Seeker finds 2, though, off the rip. Double railgun kill. Make that a triple, in fact. Yeah, this looks like vintage Seeker right now for Spacestation.
Looks amazing. I think the Sojourn pick has been so night and day versus playing the Freya, but I appreciate that he tried the Freya and is now making the pivot. And I think the Sojourn, especially on Runasapi, is just an incredible pick. Think about the angles that you can take. It's so much easier to utilize that power slide, especially versus something like the Tracer, who cannot as easily clear the distance between you and the Genji. So I think Seeker with another overclock soon too. Ooh, this might be checkpoint.
Yeah, I really like this early rush window as well from Z. Z's already dead, and Seeker now hunting for the Tracer. Oh, Pieces DNA just all over the floor there. There's nothing left of him after that, unfortunately. That is checkpoint in, honestly, record time, like 8:20. That is an insanely quick checkpoint.
They're schmoving. This push bot is not stopping for anything right now. There was a Kitsune rushes there from Sakura. They still have this bullet shot. But like everybody's playing so spread out. I think you're using that bullet shot to actually just solo at a target at this point. Helen is quite low though.
He's got the gold to save him. All right, there's the kill though. Oh, what a tag. That air shot from X10 looks sick. Hits Seeker straight in the face. Although Space Station, the thing is, now it's like, okay, the tug of war. Well, we've got checkpoint already, and now we reset to the mid. We got Sound Barrier, we got Terror Surge. You're only just going to tap your payload or your barrier before he gets moving, and then the fight's going to come.
But it's not 0 meters. Every little bit counts now. But the sound barrier, though, at least you can match that. But, ooh, everybody's so low. I don't know if I would want to use a sound barrier here.
Yeah, you don't at all. Peace is trying to force Bliss to use theirs. Oh, that is not a sound barrier you want to see. They have to come up with kills right here, right now. Oh, dear. And Bliss is going to save theirs, too. Peace at least kills Seeker, I suppose, but... yeah, not a pretty sound barrier there from X10. Tried and maybe thought they could win that fight, but with Kellen just rotating CDs, it's so hard to focus him down. You're looking at killing the Orisa last, but yeah, it's not happening. And now Space Station have double support.
I saw the vision. You use the sound barrier, keep Clear alive, then you get the cage, and hopefully you can have enough overhealth to cycle into that. But the fact that Clear didn't get any of that and died before the sound barrier hit is brutal. Now you just kind of have no choice except to play into this double support ult. How do you beat this?
Yeah, Clear got dominated there. X10 is on the flank right now. Seeker finally turning to look at her. And delivers a free railgun. Little right click finishes off the Freya. And yeah, that sound barrier advantage is just too great. Nice stick from Sugar Free too, connecting with Clear in the cage. They are chasing Peace away, knowing that at least one player from Sakura is behind them.
Oh, but think about where this push bot's about to move to. The beautiful straightaways and verticals for this Sojourn.
Seeker Giga Chad ignoring the Tracer that's shooting him in the back of the head. Just looking at Clear at the moment, getting up on the high ground, run out of overclock. But it's all good, because you got 100 plus meters already, 2-8. And with a 5 minute left in the time bank, Sakura needs to come up with summon. They need a miracle fight right now, but Clear is just taking so much damage. Good stick onto Sugar Free there, but instantly healed up. At 12 HP, not quite reduced to 0. And Seeker again shuts down X10. Rose, this is going to be a full cap.
Sure is. Sure looking like it. Oh, I mean, even the pulse bomb from Peace, maybe that would have stopped the bot, but now you have the bullet shot. That's kind of it. Space Station goes spawn camp. Sugar Free's close to pulse, and there's the rush.
There's the rush. As soon as CJ gets the rush, it instantly deploys it. Clear is dead, and yeah. Unfortunately here for Sakura, their chances of making it through to the Midseason Championships weren't to be. A full cap from Space Station to end the series. A 3-0 on top of that. They're going to lower bracket semi-final.
What a statement from Space Station. Truly have seen the glow up throughout this stage and finally showing us some new looks that I think bode really, really well for their chances to make it into another international LAN. So congratulations to them. Commiserations to Sakura. I think this is a super tough opponent for them to have faced in this lower bracket, but I think you could have said the same about any of the teams that were in that top 4, but they should be proud of making it this far. They don't have to play promotion and relegation. They're gonna be able to stay here for stage number 3, and I'm excited to see how they level up too.
Yeah, they'll definitely be back. I mean, they're going to make it through to OWCS like stage 3 for sure. Like, there's just no way. The team has been very consistent over their course, over their stay in stage 2. Hopefully the team end up staying together as well. It's been a fun squad to kind of cover. But on the flip side of things, like Space Station, this is their chance to level up. Like, they need this one more series, one more, to make it to that mid-season invitational. Rose, it's going to be Nightmare Extinction, their opponent. But we're going to jump over to the desk. They can break it down and set us up for the next one.
Thank you so much to the two of you. Yeah, a dominant showing from SSG 3-0. They came in confident today with a very clear idea and a very clear identity, something that they had to find throughout stage 2. They did come in obviously with Kellen at the helm of things. They were eager to play that dive, but that just wouldn't fly in this region, Johnny.
Yeah, it wouldn't fly in this region at the start anyway in stage 2. They have integrated a lot more of Orisa as time kind of like went on here, and I think you saw today that Kellen was just like fantastic on the Orisa as a whole. But really, I thought it was just like a gap between these two teams, right? Because yes, at some point, you know, Sakura, they got some momentum on this stage especially, but it felt like it was mostly on the back of Kellan playing the wrecking ball and that not really working out for SSG. I even felt, you know, when Clear did play the Diva, that SSG, they just had a great time exposing some of the members from Sakura. On here on King's Road, they targeted Cinnabar a lot, and Cinnabar just had a terrible time on the Lucio, because constantly whenever Cinnabar did step up, SSG said, right, we're gonna pounce on the Lucio, that's our dive target. And when it wasn't Cinnabar, it was them exposing Peace in the Tracer matchup, or other members like Clear, for example, just exposing these members, right? So SSG, it was just like a clear gap between these two teams in my mind.
Yeah, I thought the individual performances from SSG were pretty much just overwhelming. I mean, I think this is a series that was always going to be very favored for SSG, and they got the sort of show of force that I think they were hoping for here, where this matchup for them, maybe they always knew they were going to win it, but it was about showing how strong of a threat they are, about, you know, holding back in terms of any kind of strategy or map picks that you would have had to deploy in a closer series, and preparing, of course, to likely face Nightmare for the chance to qualify for the playoff. And I think that that's really where this team's mind is at. And I mean, we're looking at a scenario where SSG has really hit their stride, and it was a very weak stage overall for them, where they looked very vulnerable and like maybe they would be that team of the top 4 to drop down in the playoffs. But right now, they're looking like a pretty scary opponent.
They do indeed, and a lot of that is in part to their sharpshooters like Sugar Free. Yesterday already on Tracer Genji, like he just absolutely popped off. Did the same thing again today. So that was a very tall order for Peace to be able to keep up with the likes of Sugar Free.
Yeah, not only Peace though. Like I think that obviously Sugar Free has, you know, the dominance when it came to the Tracer matchup, but also I think you saw here, especially on a map like OWCS, like SSG just have a great understanding of what buttons to push. Like when do we pressure Clear, for example, and just kill that Diva mech immediately with our Tracer Sojourn? When do we, you know, get a pick on the Tracer? That's obviously key as well. And when do we dive aggressively? When do we push tempo with the ultimates we have? And we saw it on King's Row, for example. Seeker pops the overclock. You know, you utilize that tempo to your advantage and dive in. And Sugar Free just cleans up. Whatever the task may be in the upcoming fight, Sugar Free is always on it.